Thank you for joining us for yet another installment of Leadership Live, where I'll host candid discussions with industry leaders on the intersection of business and technology. I'm Christine Middleton from Zoho for Enterprise, and joining me today is Rahul Trivedi, who is the Vice President of Operations at TransUnion, a consumer credit reporting agency with over $2.5 billion in revenue. Rahul has over 28 years of leadership experience, with more than 10 years with intelligent process automation. Let's welcome our guest. Welcome, Rahul. Thank you so much for being here with us today. To get started, I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about your experience with our topic today.
Absolutely. So my experience with AI in general started way back when I was doing masters in computer science at IIT Delhi, and the topic of my thesis for my masters was related to knowledge-based system design, and uh, in the decade of 80s and 90s, the AI work was knowledge-based system design. That's how it was characterized, because the true use of the word AI was kind of getting diminished or discontinued in the after the 70s or 80s disappointments in this field.
Okay.
So I started like way back at that time. After my masters, I have been in the technology area for quite some time, and then in this process improvement, intelligent process automation area for last 10 years or so. This has been a hot topic for quite some time, but essentially the fire has been lit since November of 2022.
Absolutely.
When GPT 3.0 that was released.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. Well, really happy again to have you join us today and share your insights. So we have a few questions here, so let's just get into it. So the first one, can we expect generative AI to be used by identity thieves or other cyber criminals, and what steps can be taken to counter that?
So, answer to your first question is absolutely yes.
Right.
Let me give you and delve into this, and then I will answer your second question. What can we do, or what can organizations do to avoid that?
Mm-hmm.
So, generative AI is essentially the AI which generates anything, and that could be text. So that contains all form of text. It could be an email, text messages, short paragraph, PowerPoint slides. So that is one part. Uh, the other part it can do is it can generate voice, it can generate videos. So we have seen that organizations have moved from just incoming phone number based authentication to voice imprint authentication. With generative AI, we can expect that the cyber thieves and the criminals, they will be able to generate those voice imprints for customers, and then they will be able to get authenticated if organizations are relying on those.
Right.
You might have seen uh, an announcement from Apple that iPhones will be providing a feature called personal voice.
Okay.
So where you can speak for 15 minutes, and now iPhone recognizes your voice and it can produce your voice on any topic. So essentially, these cyber thief criminals, um, they could scour for the people's audios and videos, TikTok, YouTube,
Right.
LinkedIn, and then they can basically create a model for your voice, and then they can misuse it for authentication. Uh,
Right.
Same thing could be applied for the videos. That videos could be easily manipulated, and if somehow this video is used somehow for authentication, the reliability of that comes into the question.
That's true. Isn't that what they also call as deep faking? That's what
Yeah,
I hear
exactly.
online a lot. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So just relying on either audio or video sample for any kind of authentication will be not a fully reliable solution. And there was a high degree of reliability till like 6 months back on this.
Right.
So then what can we organizations do in order to beef up the security or to avoid the pitfalls because
Yeah.
of this? So essentially, organizations will have to rely on the multiple sources of the data,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and uh, not just trust that single piece of information. So, for example, if I'm calling from, say, my iPhone, uh, my bank can possibly look at the location of my Apple Watch, and
Mm.
then it can try to correlate that, okay, is it the same, are the iPhone and the Apple Watch, are they looking at the same location or not? There
Oh.
are various other key devices which do the similar kind of functioning, where you can use a separate set of key which will help authenticate. There are many commercial services also available for this kind of task. And here is a plug. I work for TransUnion,
Mm-hmm.
and TransUnion acquired a company called New Star,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide authentication services for inbound and outbound calls. So it is called True Contract and True Validate. So for any inbound call, they can validate from with the help of the carriers that are you the same person who you are claiming to be. And same thing, like when outbound calls, they can look at the previous location history and all, and then try to reach out to the right person in order to authenticate. And the models there, they predict and they tell that what's the degree of certainty that the person who is claiming to be is the same person. So these kind of the solutions will have to go hand in hand. Now the voice imprint, those kind of solutions will not work alone.
Right. Yeah, definitely frightening stuff if you think about it. Um, yeah, so on to the second question. What kind of concerns does this tech raise for you as a manager?
So uh, generative AI has got a lot of potential, but then there are some serious concerns also.
Right.
So, as a manager, uh, the concerns are varied in the spectrum. So, I would start from the topmost concern is like loss of the intellectual property.
Mm.
One thing, if you ask the leaders across the businesses, that
Mm-hmm.
what is the number one concern they have in adopting uh, generative AI or the GPT models, is that they are not sure that how their data or information will be treated.
Right.
We have seen a case from a famous phone device maker where data was compromised and then they were in the news for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So that is number one concern, that whether their data will be shared with someone, or if the data is not shared, will the model which is trained on my data, will that model be shared with someone else? So that is number one concern. And then the concerns are related to the lawsuits from using the content which is created by these GPT models. So there could be multiple contenders for that. And the contenders could be, for example, the company which creates the model versus the company who is running the model on their hardware, the person who is invoking the model, or the organization or the person whose data was used to train the model. So law is still unclear, and depending on the jurisdictions, the answers could be different.
Right.
So this is a big risk for organizations right now, that it could generate in liability.
Mm.
Then another concern related to the human resources is that what is now the validity of the certifications? Um, because now people can use uh, AI to pass these certifications. So all the
Right.
strategy for hiring the people based on these certification exams, that
Yeah.
goes for a toss now. Because
Right.
so, and then another possibility, the concern is, and that's from the business side, that these AI tools, generative AI tools, could make hacking of the systems much easier. Uh,
Mm,
so now you might have seen the use cases where you ask ChatGPT to create a website
mm,
in simple English language, and it creates a website for you, and reasonably decent website.
okay.
Hackers could use the similar kind of a capability to first of all figure out that which particular systems are running which versions of the software if they have an idea, and then use the exploits to create a custom code to attack. It's not that this capability doesn't exist right now, but it is with a select few people who
Mm,
are dedicated and smart enough to do that. What generative AI can do, that it can democratize that capability. So the number of attacks could become many fold on the organizations, and that will create a security challenge for many organizations. And then there is a concern that, especially in this remote working environment, how do you control your human resources? Are people going to use generative AI on the side to do their full-time job? So
right.
essentially, leaders have to figure that part of the puzzle out. That uh, are people working on this, or are people using some tools to get their work done?
Mm-hmm.
And if it is allowed by the organization policies, why not incorporate those tools as part of your workflows? So, so that is another thing to think about. And then another concern is that um, the mistakes in the content which is created by the generative AI.
Mm,
There is a news article on CNN today.
okay.
A lawyer used generative AI to
Mm-hmm.
prepare the case brief, and the generative AI hallucinated and it created the references of 8 non-existent cases.
Oh, wow.
And when the judge asked for details about those cases, the lawyer submitted the uh, data generated by generative AI. Of course, that was all fictitious data and hallucinated by the AI.
Mm,
The result of that, that lawyer is facing now potential liability action, and um, it could lead to his disbarment also. So there is a serious concern that
yeah.
information which is generated by generative AI, it needs to be thoroughly vetted. Uh,
Mm.
the, and there are solutions emerging. There are ways to correct it, but it's still, I think people still have to like check it, and that whether the information is right or not.
Yeah, that's absolutely a concern because, like, though all of this technology is created to help us lead our lives easier, if in the wrong hands, it's always, a point where people can use that for wrong or, use that in the way it's not supposed to be. That always seems to be the case. Coming up on our final question, generative AI has already shown promise in business analytics, such as the use of synthetic data. What are the potential benefits and risks relying on AI generated information in critical business decision making processes?
So I think that the benefit is pretty clear, that it will lead to low cost,
Mm,
quick generation of the data. There is this is often not the one of the most interesting pieces of the work. I know plenty of developers and testers, and generating the test data is not one of the preferred tasks. So delegating that task to a tool which can do the job seems to make sense. Um, However, the cost in terms of, or the risks in terms of, for the critical decision making, that's where the keyword is, the critical is the keyword here. So these models can generate the data based on what they have been trained on. So like Donald Rumsfeld has said one time, there are unknown unknowns. So there could be unknown things for which the model has not been trained, And if the model has not been trained, the data generated probably will not be in that unknown area. Human mind still has a creativity, while the generative AI models uh, essentially produce a weighted factor output based on the data which they have seen and they have been trained on. So the creativity factor is not there in these models, while the human brain still has got the creativity. So that is the risk, that these models could churn the data which is based on the past data, but it doesn't include enough uh, uncertain data or enough the futuristic data, and that could be critical or mm, very different in a critical decision making process.
All right, thank you for that answer. We do have a question here from Mahesh. I'm just going to broadcast this over here. So he asked, what are the liability implications for the chat GPTs of the world? The tech companies producing these powerful AI capabilities, how will they be held responsible for ensuring that their products are not misused by hackers? And if not them, then who would have to do it? Law enforcement is usually way behind the tech industry and hackers in keeping up with the tech.
Great question, Mahesh. Uh, right now, these models are in open source domain. Anybody can download and anybody can create their own model. So it is right now free for all kind of a situation, and it's not easy for any one government to even control it. Uh, even if this suppose, I'm saying hypothetically that we have a UN convention and we have an agreement from all the UN member bodies, still it will be very, very difficult to get it controlled from the bad actors. So right now, I would say the cat is out of the bag. The only thing is that we got to play defensive on this. There are always nation states or the other people who will be misusing this for their nefarious purposes.
It seems to be like a necessary evil.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on the last few minutes. Before we sign off, Rahul, are there any final thoughts or insights that you would like to provide?
Yeah, one thing I would like to provide, I would like to quote Stephen Hawking.
Mm,
Uh, so uh, it says, success in creating effective AI could be biggest event in the history of our civilization, or the worst, we just don't know. So we
mm,
cannot know if we will be infinitely helped by AI or ignored by it and sidelined or conceivably destroyed by it. This is a totally new area. It's full of uncertainty. If we use it wisely, it could lead to a lot of progress and hope. But if it is used by bad elements, then it could cause a lot of chaos and destruction.
yeah, that's true. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights. Oh, before we do have another question from Petro, let me put this up as well. So he says, how can companies make sure that they've invested in the right LLM? Seeing what Rahul was saying about not knowing who will be the best for this technology, I wonder what's his take on the right approach for enterprises to adopt generative AI in a safe and efficient way.
So
Rahul? All right. Seems to be a technical difficulty. I'm sorry about that. Let us wait for a few seconds to see if we can fix this.
which are famous for.
All right. Rahul, your connection was a little in and out.
Okay.
Are you
Uh,
hearing it?
yeah.
All right.
Let me restart.
Yes.
So the top strategy companies are trying to figure this out, that what should be the best way, and what's the right large language model to be adopted. For now, we have seen that Amazon has started offering a menu of these large language models. Similar kind of strategy is being applied by IBM. And then there are a host of lot of other options. Microsoft has come up with their own strategy, that what kind of like large language models are. So I would say we organizations have to evaluate and see that what makes sense for their particular business. There are a lot of custom models are appearing for the particular business applications, trained on the particular set of data. And based on that, the organizations need to select the right model for their particular tasks.
Thank you so much for your time and insight today, Rahul. It was really nice having you come on here and share all the information that you have. And thank you, everybody who attended today. We hope to see you again for the next one next month. Thank you once again for joining Sofa for Enterprises Leadership Live.